Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. It's great to have you with us today. It is a great day to be with you and on the radio. We're covering some great stories. Next, we've got something out of the state of Arizona. I think kind of a crazy law here. I understand the intent, but I don't think this person has really thought it through.
I'm not even sure I understand the intent of this. I just
Really?
don't think it's important. But go on. Tell us the story.
Okay. Not important enough to not even do it, or just not important?
Well, tell the story, and I'll let you know. I don't want to.
Okay.
I'll let you know what I'm thinking.
You promise you'll tell me what you're thinking.
I will.
Okay, good.
I will. I just don't want to, spoil anything.
All right.
Before we hear the story.
The story we're talking about comes from Arizona. There's a leash law that gives certain freedoms to owners of pets, but really ties the hands of a homeowners association. And we'll talk about it right here. It's Arizona State Senator Lori Klein, and she just recently, this last week, introduced this bill at the Arizona legislature. And I think it passed the first committee. It's not a law yet, but
not enacted yet.
But it passed the first committee and is moving on. And it's Senate Bill 1065, and it's in an attempt to remove any authority that a homeowner association or condominium association has to regulate dog leash rules in a planned community. Now, if enacted, Senate Bill 1065 would prohibit a homeowner association from enforcing any requirement that a dog be on a leash. Or the association could also not prohibit them from just running at large if the dog owner provides proof of a minimum $100,000 canine liability insurance to the enforcement officer.
To an enforcement officer, yeah. Okay, here's my comment.
Yeah. That was not Tony, folks.
That was not my comment. Here's my comment.
Yes.
Is it important to allow dogs to run loose? I see no importance at all in this issue. Why?
What great injustice is taking place?
That's right. Why is this important to allow dogs to run loose?
Yeah.
That's my comment about why the bill is totally nonsensical.
Yeah,
that's one reason.
One of the questions that I have with this is: are we just talking about all HOAs, or how does this also affect cities and municipalities? Because if that is going so far as to say that a city can't,
that's exactly what it says. If you read
then
the bill, it says that no ordinance, covenant, condition, or restriction enacted by a city or town can prohibit a dog from running at large if the dog owner has insurance. So definitely this applies not only to homeowner associations, but to cities.
You're right. It is so broad, isn't it? It says any restriction by a city, a town, a homeowner association. Yeah, it goes on.
That's right.
It says they will not be able to do it. However, I think to make this palatable for the cities and municipalities, they put a couple of exemptions in here. First of all, they said, hey, if you have a female dog that is in mating season,
in heat,
you're not permitted to allow it to be at large. If the dog's got rabies, that's awful nice of them. You don't have to.
You may not let it run loose.
You may not let it run loose.
Okay.
And also if it's considered, quote, a vicious dog. Again,
there's no standard for who decides it's a vicious dog or not.
Yeah. But those items are exemptions. The other one that I find most interesting, though, Tony, is this next one. It says, no person in charge of any dog shall permit such dog in a public park or any public school property to to run loose unless the dog is physically.
It has to be restrained by a leash.
By a leash.
In a car or
in
a cage.
In a cage.
So they're excluding public parks and public schools from this ordinance. There you have to keep your dog on a leash or contained. But they're allowing dogs to run loose everywhere else, and they're disallowing cities and homeowner associations from passing any rules that contradict it.
So my question is why do they find it necessary to still have a dog under control of a leash on school property and on a public park, but not a homeowners association? What's the difference?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And not even just the difference between that and the homeowners association, but the public park versus the rest of the city.
I get yes. So I guess under this distinction, then if you're in a public park or on the school grounds, you can't have your dog off leash. But if you're just in downtown,
dog can run loose.
Dog can
That's
run
right.
loose.
You brought up some good issues. How is an insurance policy helpful after someone is injured, after a person or a child is bitten by a dog that's run loose, after someone's dog is injured by a dog that's running loose? What good does an insurance policy do?
The idea to say, well, don't worry about that. I'll take care of it. That just seems.
What about this? Is kind of like saying you don't need a driver's license as long as you've got car insurance. Isn't it kind of like that? Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't get any part of this.
Yeah.
Who decided it's so well? And another thing, Lori Klein says, or she puts herself forward as someone who really pushes for strong private property rights.
Yeah.
Arizona has the strongest private property rights in the nation, and she considers herself as one of the people that ensures that. And yet, this is walking all over private property rights. In a homeowners association, that's private property. See, why can the state tell them how they can control dogs?
You're bringing up a great point when you're dealing with what is considered private property rights. You can't just take a look at one segment of the population. You have to balance it with everyone.
That's right.
It's the same thing with, we've talked about it so many times. It was Judge Oliver Wendell Holmes who gave that great speech about what is free speech. And he said, yes, you have a freedom to speak, but you don't have the freedom to yell fire in a movie theater,
in a crowded theater. That's right.
And
That's right.
And so here we have someone. Yes, you have rights as a property owner, and one of the property you own is this pet, but not at the
expense of
other people.
That's right.
Reminds me of what the school teacher always said, right? You have the freedom to swing your arms until your arms come to the edge of my nose.
Yeah, there you go.
And so you're right. I think what we have here is clearly something that a lot of pet owners would like. Some pet owners. I wouldn't even say all pet owners.
No, I wouldn't either. Although I do know pet owners who feel like their dog should be allowed to run loose. The dog is not being treated humanely unless it's allowed to run loose. And my answer to that is that's fine. You have the option to go buy 40 acres out in North Dakota or in rural Minnesota where you can let your dogs run loose if you like. But I do not want them running loose in front of my house and damaging my lawn and leaving their droppings, because that's a consequence of dogs running loose.
Let me tell you what happened to me. This happened just last night. I'm walking my little dog, Mindy.
Uh-huh.
And
I've met Mindy. She's a doll.
She's 22 pounds of a terrier. And she's a very loving dog. But she had an incident about a year or two ago where a large dog came, jumped on her and grabbed her head and ended up doing some damage to her ear and biting her. Well, I tell you, this little dog is just frightened to death anytime a large dog comes over her.
And tries to do that.
Yeah. Last night, our neighbor who lives across the street, it was late at night. He didn't think he needed the leash. It's understandable. But I had my dog on a leash. His dog came bounding over. Mindy just was in a fit. So I can tell you, as another pet owner, I would not like this leash law for no other reason than, hey, look, I've got my dog constrained because I know that if a dog goes over her like that, she's going to try and
Defend
bite them
herself.
and defend
Yeah,
herself.
yeah.
And I don't want that to happen.
So you restrain Mindy so
But
that she's not going to harm another dog.
But I need the other person to restrain their dog too.
That's right.
Without it, you don't
And I
have...
disagree with you. Your neighbor, it was not okay that he was out just because it was late.
Yeah.
It was not okay that his dog wasn't on a leash because I bet there's a leash law where you live.
Hey, we've got to take a break. Folks, we've got so much to cover. Back after these messages, you're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.